What's up, guys? Tucker Singer here, S&S Smithing. It has been a long time. I'm hoping that now I can start doing a resurgence out here. I've gotten some good progress on the welding trailer for getting the mobile welding stuff going a bit better than just loading everything in the back of my exploder. But anyways, today we've got some new toys to review here. So let's dive right in. As we got our Arccaptain machine here in the box. I will say right off the bat, when it was supposed to come on like the 28th or the 29th, and it actually showed up on like the 23rd, 24th actually. So it showed up ahead of schedule, surprisingly enough. With some of these off-brand machines, you never know what you're getting. But it was packaged extremely well. This is the box that the machine itself is in. This box was in two other large boxes outside of that. So like there's one box that was just sleeved around this with packing paper around it, and then that box was put into an even bigger box. So let's cut this open and see what all we got. Everything here is all foam packed in, so that way it doesn't wiggle around, which is good. Which means in shipping it's not going to get shaken around and beat to death. So let's take the foam out. Everything's organized nicely. First off here we've got in our MIG lead. We have our stick stinger. We have a ground clamp. Gas line. Actually doesn't seem like too bad quality. We've got the actual meat and potatoes of it. The welding machine itself here. Everything is plastic wrapped. Consumables, drive rollers, etc. Seems like we got a nice supply of drive rollers though. User manual, warranty card, and the Arccaptain service card, which works really nicely. And then we got our 220-110 adapter plug here. Because this is a dual voltage machine, you can run it on 110 or 220. But whenever it comes to welding, to be honest with you, the 110, you're extremely limited, and I don't find it even worth talking about usually. So let's get the plastic out of here, get everything pulled out and looked at. So, Arccaptain. Now that we got, see, this is wired up a bit differently than the other reviews I've seen, which means that they're continuously trying to make improvements on the machine, which is nice. So if you buy it after this fact, it's probably going to be changed a little bit again and improved on. So the reviews I've seen in the past had a standard 110 plug on them. So, and then this has the 220 NEMA 50P plug on it. So that's pretty nice. That way I'm not always swapping out, because 80% of, at least 98% of the time, I'm running 220 anyway. That way I can get full capabilities of the machine. I do enjoy having the adapters in case if I need them, if I go onto a job somewhere and I don't have the capability to bring the generator with me. So that's cool. Yeah, kind of a shortish plug. Not bad. So now let's take a closer look at this along with the other guys. So now we've got a little bit closer look here. We have Arccaptain. The door for our MIG wire does open downwards. It's actually on there kind of good. We do have a settings chart here. You guys can see that here. So it does give us a bit of a idea what we're doing for wire thicknesses and proper settings. Now, one thing that a lot of people here in the States may or may not like about this machine is that it is all in metric. So it is outside of the wheelhouse that we usually run around here. A lot of times we will have wire feed speed in inches per minute. Now this machine is going to be running off of meters per minute. So it's going to be a little bit different, but it is a synergic machine, which means you set in your voltage and the wire feed should adapt back and forth, which is good for beginners. Now we're going to get a little bit more into the meat potato. We got more drive rollers here. Nice steel roll drivers. These seem like the same type of drive rolls that the Vulcan welders use. Like I've done that, talked about those in the past a bit. Pretty simple design. A quick thing about cutting costs here is right in here. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but we have a jump bar where we're going to be connecting from our power inside the machine from the stingers here. It is a kind of like a tin or steel piece put in. If they're going to run it that way, I would rather see copper. Conducts a little bit better, and it won't be getting as nearly as warm or worn out and corrode as easy. But again, this machine was $300, so you can't really hold it to certain specs. They're going to have to cut corners on some things. You can put the 10-pound spools in here or the 2-pound spools. If you take out these pieces here, you can put in for the 10-pound spools, or I mean the 2-pound spools. Something that's kind of neat that you don't usually see a lot of times is that the door and the machine are grounded together, which is nice, so that's a little bit less risk. Now, the nice thing about having the chart in the machine is I did notice on a lot of the reviews and stuff I went on looking into this machine before I bought it, was that it did not have any sort of welding chart whenever it came to the MIG modes. I know that in the manual it has the charts for stick and the lift TIG and stuff. So it's nice that they added that. I did look on the website prior to buying this machine. They do have this exact same chart here that you see on their website. I didn't think it was included with the welder at that point, but they must have put it up on the website for people who already purchased this to find. So if you currently own this machine and you do not have a settings chart and you haven't taken the time to fully figure out what you think would work for different material thicknesses and stuff and wires, you can go on Arccaptain's website and you'll find this chart on here. So that should be a big help to a lot of people. It is nice that the door opens down. And one more nice little detail about this machine, which I thought was really cool, kind of as an extra step, especially for a budget machine like this, is right up in here we have a dome light. So whenever the machine's actually plugged in and on and you're working on with your drive rolls and your wire and stuff, you can turn on this light here and actually see a bit better what you're doing. I've worked with lots of machines, Lincolns, Millers, industrial size and hobby home ones, and this one's the first one that I've actually found that has a light in there. Now generally it's not always needed, but sometimes I could see where it would be nice to be able to have an extra light so you can see down, make sure nothing's arcing against each other, and whenever you're troubleshooting the machine whenever something's not acting right. So that's pretty neat. Let's take a look at the front. Alrighty guys, so we do have our little protector here. It's a little peely. So we get that peeled off. We have a few different butting settings here, and then we have a accessory plug here, 4-pin. That's probably for the spool gun, because this machine should be spool gun accessible. I do not have the spool gun with me. That is something I want to plan to do here soon. Just one of the purposes of buying this machine for me was to run the spool gun. Now it does say that it has the aluminum drive rollers. That way you can put in a spool of aluminum and push it through the gun. I haven't had success with it doing it on my own. I've seen there's tons of people on the internet that do it with the Teflon liners and all that other stuff, but I haven't had success with it just because the aluminum is so easily bound up and soft. Once it gets through everything like that, it just wants to bind up in bird's nest. But we have our inductance here for our arc strength. We have our amps here. We have this would probably be for our wire feed speed or our volts. And we have modes. That'd probably be so you can switch through all the different settings and types of welding. It shows you here your active like wire sizes. It has the gas mixes that you're going to be doing, plus if you're going to be running flux, stainless steel or aluminum for the MIG or the TIGs here. Well, you're not going to be able to do aluminum too, but we'll get into that later. Our synergic button. This will be probably, this is for our 4T, 2T button and spot welding selection down here in the corner. So what that means is 2T is you hit this button and set it for that, which is regular welding we're all pretty familiar with. You hit the trigger and it runs until you release the trigger. 4T is more so helpful whenever you're in awkward positions or you have like really, really long welds to do, because over time it doesn't seem like it, but holding in that trigger and having your hand at a certain angle does fatigue you really quickly whenever you're in awkward situations. So you can set the 4T, and what that does is whenever you pull the trigger once, it will run, but it won't stop again until you squeeze the trigger and release it again. So you could literally just squeeze, let go, and then run for a 2-foot weld, and then hit the button and you're good to go. So that there is most of the settings. I do know that there are memory recalls and stuff like that. And one thing I do want to touch on about how they keep improving the machine was on a lot of the reviews and stuff I've seen over the past 6 months about this machine is that this mode button did say model. And now they have corrected the English and now it does say mode. So that means Arccaptain is looking out and listening to what people are saying and staying very active, which is a good sign. So hopefully this could be maybe like another Yes Welder type scenario where this company keeps producing things and follows the feedback of its customers and people using it, and then try to get an actual decent product that is very affordable and budget friendly. So let's dive into what also came with it. Nice gas hose here. It is not one of them plasticky ones, actually rubber nylon with crimp fittings on here, so that's nice. I already have a couple other gas hoses. And one thing it did not come with, though, if you're planning on doing MIG straight out the gate, is you're going to have to purchase a regulator or flow meter. So that way you can actually run from your gas bottle to the machine. But they're not too bad. A lot of times stuff in like the stores and weld supply places, if you're not already a regular customer, they can be kind of expensive. I just had to purchase some new ones the other day, and I found them for like $30 with new gas lines on Amazon for like 20 to 30 bucks, depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for actual flow meter, it's going to be like that. If you can just want to get by with a regular regulator that will accept the argon mixes, it's even cheaper than that. But I prefer running with the flow meters. Just preference. Either one will work just fine. At work, we'll run regular regulators a lot of the time. So, you get a good gas line. Like I said, we have the cord adapter here. We have our ground lead here. Open it up. It does have a little bit of some of that Chinese funk to it when you open it up out of the bag, but that's okay. It'll smell like burnt stuff here soon. Decent enough ground clamp. I mean, it is better than what's come on some of the Harbor Freight machines that I've seen, and definitely better than there's like the Lincoln Mig like 140s and stuff like that. Those little welders, which aren't technically manufactured by Lincoln. They're made by Harrison, like the regulator company. And they work okay, but I think for what you pay for, you can get a lot better budget machine like this that functions better and has more capabilities than one of those. But that comes down to like brand loyalty a lot of the time. But it does have a better ground clamp here, crimped fitting on the end, has the braided copper lead connecting the jaws together, so it helps give a better ground. It does have the larger DINS plugs here, so what probably I can do, I can even take the leads I already have. Pretty much everything I have here runs on the DINS connectors, so that I can take my Vulcan leads and stuff like that, and my Hobarts, and run them all interchangeably together to see which ones have the best wires or for backups and stuff. So that's pretty cool that it's fairly universal. Now let's get into the stick lead. A lot of times this is where they cut corners on, or the leads and consumables, but I mean, the stick lead, or the stinger holder here, has a pretty tight clamp. I mean, this cover here is kind of loose right out of the box, but that's no big deal. You just take a screwdriver, tighten that up. But that's pretty good. Everything looks like brass inside. Yep, all brass connectors, which is really good. That's going to transfer the current pretty well. A nice thing is the little spring in here has a little piece of rubberized tubing over it, so that way you don't accidentally catch yourself in the spring and make yourself live. Again, DINS connectors. I mean, they got the smaller welding leads, but for what we're going to be using the machine for a lot of the time, and the rating for this machine, it'll hold up okay. They just won't take a beating running across metal a lot, and they'll burn up pretty quick. So if you want to upgrade that, that's fine, but for now, this will work just fine. This is a lot better than the leads I got with the Vulcan. I can actually go grab that and compare it here. Give me one. Vulcan leads here. Not for the MIG, but at least just the stick and the ground clamp. So the Vulcans do have a heavier gauge wire, which is good. So that part I'm going to probably end up keeping. The ground clamp's alright. It does have the copper wiring and stuff like this. The spring is a little bit more robust, so I might have been a little bit wrong right off the gate thinking about it. But I do like how this has the two little points in this one. That way it helps get a couple more points of contact. This one, as you see, I've used it quite a bit. It's been through the ringer. It still works alright. This is more like the main brand clamps, which works well. This probably works fine. But let's hop on to comparing the stick holders here. So now, see again, same thought. The Vulcan has heavier gauge wire, which is going to hold up a lot better, take more heat. But I think, tit for tat, yeah, Arccaptain definitely has stronger spring and grip strength. This one is started falling apart and constantly needing readjusted. I'm not super impressed with this from the Vulcan. Like I said, the lead cables are a decent enough size, so if anything at some point I will swap out the lead wires. And yeah, the DINS connectors are the same size, so they're compatible. I can even switch these in and out with each other and all that, and it'll work fine. So, but something I'll probably do is I'll take this lead holder and then put it on and swap it with this one, just because I like this one a little bit better. This one isn't too great either, but it is a lot better than the Vulcan one. So, that being said, the only thing I would tell Arccaptain about the leads and the ground clamps would be, that's okay. These are consumable things anyway. You're going to replace them after so long, especially the ground clamps. They'll get cooked over time. Would definitely be upping the wire gauge sizes. This will work for all the more that the machine is rated, but it will run smoother, last longer with the thicker gauge cables. but that's not too bad. So let's hop on down over to this. Something one I was excited to look at was the MIG gun. Now this is a Euro style machine, how it hooks up in the front. So it is different than what a lot of people here in the States are accustomed to. I, however, personally think I haven't gotten to use Euro style connections a whole lot, but I like the simplicity of them. It does come with another contact tip and a little multi-tool for changing out the gas diffusers and tips, which is kind of nice. And the diffusers and everything here seems to be exactly compatible with like the Vulcan, which will also take Lincoln consumables, except for the gas diffuser isn't the same thing, and the nozzle cups. So you can even go to Harbor Freight and pick up more consumables for this. I don't know if you can get the gas diffusers for Harbor Freight, but I'm sure it's a generic type one that you can probably find and order. But that's pretty cool. The Vulcan did not come with a separate gas diffuser, which is nice. Let's see here. And again, this is the same style as the Vulcan. It's got that compression spring, which it works okay. It's nothing dramatic, nothing too bad. If you pay attention and make sure you're keeping your nozzle and stuff clean, like you really should already, you're not going to have too many issues with it down the line. Of course, these are consumable parts. They will wear out, so don't hold them to that. It is a smaller gun. Trigger feels okay. Plastic's kind of weird. I do like how it has the little ball pivot in here. It does have a nice weight to it. It is relatively short leads though. But anyway, this is the Euro style connector here on the end. So what that is, all of your trigger setups are here, your gas comes through here, and then this is your liner that the wire travels through. Everything is all in one piece on these versus the standard like Tweco style hookups, which you have to put in the main lug and then set it with a set screw and then put in the second trigger wire, hook it up somewhere either inside or on the outside of the machine, and then your gas is built into the hose line, so you don't have to worry about that part. But this saves you so much headache fiddling with trying to get everything to line up, jam it in. These, it fits in one way. You put it in, you tighten the collar nut here, snugged up, and then you're off to the races. So I think this is a lot more convenient, especially whenever you have to, if it's going to be a portable type welder, take this out, put it there, and you don't have to worry about trying to keeping all the other wires safe. Just kind of put a little cover over this or something, watch it, and then you don't have to worry about nothing like that. So it's a lot simpler to set up. I like the Euro style. I'm pretty sure this seems like a common size looking at it, because I mean the BIMS connectors are too, so you could easily upgrade the MIG gun, just get a Euro style connector, and you could go on and find whatever one best suits you. So that is all of those. We do have a bunch of drive rollers, which again are in metric sizes. Oh wait, hold on. Actually no, they came with regular sizes for us here in America, which is nice. Again, like I said, compared to the reviews I've seen, they have really stepped up the game. So they do have the 30,000 labeled on our drive rollers here, which is nice. Yep, same thing here. These are the knurled ones for flex core. 0.0, 0.8. Okay, so these ones, this one here, the knurled, is not, is in metric, I mean. And then, yeah, so is this one here. But the main one here, it's got 030 and 040 roller, which is kind of an odd size. Usually you'd have the next step, but that's okay. The MIG wire I have right now is the 030, so this will work fine for me. And I forget which size was the one in there, but I do know that this can accept up to 045 size wires from other things I've seen and looked into. So you can get all kinds of different drive rollers. They're pretty easy to find, so you can use whatever size wire you want in here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We can have a little scan through the manual here on certain things, which I'm sure from everything I've already heard, it is written very, very well for what this machine is. Like I said, it's even got the wiring diagrams. That's hard to find a lot anymore. Yeah, it has all kinds of different wiring diagrams in it, which is very helpful on troubleshooting. I am not going to open up the machine and check it out. There's plenty of other videos you can find that. As far as I'm aware, everything inside looks pretty good. It doesn't make no noise, nothing's rattling, everything was packaged fine, so there's no reason why it should have anything bad going on inside. And even if it does have that 2-year warranty on it. So I could just get a hold of the customer support, which I've also heard is okay with getting back to people. So that helps a lot, and it does have pictures on the step-by-step guides to hooking everything up. So they kind of almost idiot-proofed it a little bit. Yep, goes into the MIG. It even goes into the mechanics inside of the MIG guns, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. Oh, and then it has the whole machine disassembled and part numbers, so you could possibly get replacement parts, which is cool. If you do not understand how to solder boards or feel comfortable working on electrical appliances and things like that, do not do this on your own. You will kill, hurt, or burn yourself down, or all the above. So try not to work on your own machines if you can avoid it, unless you're qualified. Let's see here. I was trying to see if I can find where the settings are. Okay, yeah. Yep, tells me what kind of materials I can run, on what polarities here. It gives a nice little breakdown on all of the schematics on the front screen, what all the buttons do, how they lay out. They have our duty cycles and parameters here. So let's go over that real quick. For MMA, which is regular stick welding, SMAW here in America, for on the 220, 180 amps is 20% duty. Oh no, yeah, 180 amps is the max. 20 is the lowest. Sorry, that chart I was reading it backwards a little bit. Anyway, stick is 180 max. That'll let you do, and 20 is the lowest. And it has a 60% duty cycle on that, which is pretty good for how much this machine costs. Duty cycle is what's going to kill you on a lot of budget machines. And duty cycle is not a fixed thing like a lot of people think. So if I'm running at 180 and I have 6% duty cycle, that means is I can run this baby full bore, continual arcing, running that bead for 6 minutes solid. So even the time of you cleaning the weld does count as part of the resting time. It's pushing it sometimes if you're really working hard on the machine and it's a hot day. But if you're running lower, like for what you'd probably be running on a regular 7018 1/8-inch electrode, you'd be running anywhere between like 110 to 130 amps-ish, depending on how you feel in the scenario. And that will increase your duty cycle as the load that it's putting out goes down, the time you can weld with it goes up. So this has a pretty good duty cycle on it for what it is. I don't even think the Vulcan had that. I'd have to double check. But this is pretty good duty cycle. MIG, you can run 200 amps max, 30 amps is the lowest. That's in the synergic setting, so what it'll do, instead of showing you the wire feed, it'll show you the amperages that you're going to be running at. And your wire feed is directly tied to your amperages. So those two things control each other. And a lot of machines already do that, especially like a lot of Lincoln machines you set your wire feed, it's setting the amps behind. So if you're watching a digital layout, as you're running it, won't show the wire feed moving, it'll show the amperages moving depending on your contact to work distance. But that's pretty good. And again, it's all going to be, it's 60% duty cycle. For the lift arc TIG, you're going to have between 20 and 200 amps, and that's what, 60% duty cycle. So technically, in a way, you could trick this machine into letting you run stick electrodes on the full 200 amps. You put it in the TIG setting, and you're just going to switch your leads around. So instead of running DC negative for your electrode on TIG, you'll just hook in your ground there instead, and then put on your stick lead where the ground was supposed to be hooked up, or how it was supposed to be hooked up. You just reverse the polarity and run it, and you'll, in theory, be able to run it. Unless the machine has some kind of know-how to stop you, but you could. But I mean, that 20 amps isn't really going to make a huge difference. Let me see. It is, the machine itself is 28.2 pounds, which, I mean, it is crazy light for a welder. I can pick this up no problem. Throw it around all day. It does have spots here you can put on a shoulder strap, and you could take this thing to Kingdom Come, and it wouldn't slow you down a bit. It's very light. It does have a nice powder-coated finish, which I do like a lot. I love the fit and finish on this. It's a very pretty machine to look at. And it does have all of your duty cycles and everything on the back sticker here as well. Yeah. That's pretty good. It does have surge protection in it, and it should have a shutdown function. So if you do somehow cross the threshold of the duty cycle and you're overheating the machine, it is supposed to shut itself down before any damage happens in the machine. So hopefully that works well. We'll see. But yep. So manual, pretty sound, well written. Drive rollers, like I said, we have a lot of them. We have the aluminum U-shaped rollers, and we have our V rollers and our our notched rollers for our flux core wire. I do not know if it came with a roll of flux core. I do not know if I currently have decent, good flux core wire around. I don't run it all that much. If I'm going to run flux core most of the time, I'm just going to run stick. And if I can't run the stick on or something because it seems too thin, I will just switch over to MIG. So for whenever it comes to MIG welding, I don't need a big, beefy, heavy machine. I really just use it to where stick isn't going to get me. It's the biggest thing. Yeah, so let me hook up the machine and we can get started on the welder. Got the welder all hooked up here. Still got to set my gas pressure and stuff, but I haven't really got it turned on yet. I figured that'd be something cool that you guys would enjoy to see how it turns on. So here's we go. Alright, she's kicking on. Fan started up. Alright, so here we got our mode. Alright, so this is our stick, TIG, aluminum spool got MIG, regular MIG. Oh, so you know, we're using 030 solid wire, 70 SR6. So the metric drive roller for that would be the 0.8. So we'll do that. We'll go back there. We'll set mode MIG. Okay. So we'll set up the synergic for the 0.08 MIG there, 100 volts and 75. So we're gonna bring up our volts some here. Okay. So it has a 3 volt plus or minus on it, which I'm not a huge fan on the synergic side of it here for that. The amps, the 75. Let's bring that up to 95 for now. Let's see how that acts here. Oh, I still got feed into my wire. But she turns on, and the nice thing is that the fan isn't on all the time, so it's an on-demand fan, which is going to be nice. It's going to be quiet, especially for doing some of these videos. So, alrighty guys, so I got my gas set. So next thing we're going to put up our tensioners just out of it, and then start feeding our wire through here. Now it does have this little function where once there it is. Once it picks up you're trying to feed the wire, it stops feeding gas and then it speeds up the drive rollers. So there we go. One thing you want to make sure is you take out the contact tips whenever you're feeding the wire back through. Just one more thing for it to get caught on and bird's nest with. So we'll thread that back in there, and since we got her set up for MIG now, we're just going to go ahead and run it. Now, one thing I'm not 100% sure about is the way I put in this weld wire. I probably should flip it around. We'll see if it runs smoothly this way. If not, we'll just flip it so it's pulling from the spool the other way. I'm coming from the top down, but it looks like the machine might be set up more so for feeding off of the bottom of the spool straight in. So we shall see how it goes. Now, let me pull up my handy dandy chair. Now, I got all my safety gear all right here. I got glasses. I got my welding leathers, my hood, and my gloves are right here. So, we'll go ahead. I have a couple pieces of steel here. This one is just a random piece of 1/2-inch plate that I've had kicking around for years. That I'll randomly just test out some new electrodes or wire settings and stuff on to see how I like it. So we'll get this hooked back up, close the machine up, and we'll get started. Close you up. Let's start off with our synergic setting here. So 0.08. And then let's see what the chart suggests here. Solid steel, 030, so 18 volts and 4.7 wire speed. Okay, so that's different material. Okay, let's see. So we want, yeah, okay. So for around about what we're going to be doing, I'm going to take about 23 and 10 seems like a nice starting point here. So we're going to take this, bump her up 3. Yep, so we're at 21. Let's see how it goes from here with the synergic setting, and then if not, we're just going to hop out. I got a feeling I'm not going to care for the synergic setting a lot. I don't really like a lot of preset things, but we'll see. Might play with it a little bit here. This is going to be the first arc we ever strike off this thing, so. Get my hood on. Alright, here we go. Yeah, it is feeding a little funny here. Oh, it's welding. kind of doing a little roughly though. Let me see if it might have something to do with the way that I put that wire in there, if that's why it's bouncing the way it is. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Alright guys, break for a second here. I gotta flip my wire around and then try this again, see if it feeds a bit smoother. Alrighty guys, so I flipped around the wire. We'll see what happens. It could just be like the tension for like the wire holder's a little off or something like that needs fiddled with. Because it runs smooth and then it jerks and bounces the spool. So it could just be something tension-wise inside or something funky like that. So let's try welding with it, or not. We're gonna hop off of the Synergic and then just kind of tinker with it a little bit regularly and go from there. So, it doesn't seem terrible, other than that pulsing. If I could get it to stop pulsing, you can make some really decent welds with it. And again, that might just be something that the 10-pound spools in this little machine, the motors might have a little bit of a hard time, or the spool could just be a little wired funky. But yeah. So, I'll fiddle with this a little bit off camera here, see if I can figure it out, and then I'll come back to you, and if I can't, we'll just hop on to stick and try some different electrodes and stuff with that. Alrighty guys, be back in a minute. Okay guys, so I just decided to max out the machine. It's still pulsing a little bit, but nothing too crazy. I think that just might be the way the Arc's set up in this machine, because it adjusts as I weld and adjust the amperages up and down. Now, I'm sure if I look through the book and stuff, maybe there's a way to change it from doing that, but it doesn't give a terrible weld, a bad profile. It's just a different Arc style to get used to. Like I said, it doesn't run terribly. It just pulses. One thing though, every time you start on this, it's a pretty cold start. So like once you start, it's going to pop a little bit, and then you got to back up and let your puddle establish and get burning, and then go forward. Because that so far is my critiques on the MIG part. Let me go ahead, run one max out. We're at 26 volts, and I think that says 14 amps. The screen's kind of hard to see out here in the sun. So let's run one with that baby maxed out. It ran pretty smooth. I'll just bring one on here. We'll just throw one right in here. showing terrible welds, but you can definitely see where it pulses like that. It leaves that little ripple effect in there. It does give a nice flat weld with decent penetration though. So once you get the grip of it, I'd say it'll do MIG fairly solidly once you give it the chance. Like I said, those cold starts and the nozzle here, it really likes to eat up that spatter. It gets clogged up kind of quick. So between that, it's not bad. If we could get a better start, which that could probably be maybe play around with the inductance and certain things a little bit. But it's not terrible. Like, it's not completely cold. You just can't go as soon as your arc and your puddle's established. You're gonna have to hold on for a second, kind of like stick welding. Let that puddle establish itself. Make sure all the junk's kind of backed out. You got a good pull, and then move forward. And then same thing when you're ending. Right at the end of this weld here, I got drug up on some spatter in the nozzle, but like I said, it wasn't bad. It's different getting used to it. And to be frank with you, if they're giving you the charts now, I wouldn't even bother with the synergic setting, because it has limits on it, on your volts up and down by like 3 volts plus or minus. And then if you get that and then you just want to bump up your amps, it's gonna raise up your volts anyway. So yeah, you can get some okay beads with the synergic setting, but really I'd just go with manual MIG mode. Follow your chart short here, or look up one on the camera there. So I'm finishing off what our MIG thoughts. Like I said, the MIG runs smooth. You can make good, pretty welds with it. Like, you make decent welds with it, you know. And those aren't the best, but still, not going for the beauty of it right now, just seeing the functionality. Yeah, it'll work. And that pulse thing, I mean, if you get used to it, you could probably work it into your favor to help your speed, your timing, all that stuff, because a lot of people like to do the whip and pause. You can let that compensate for it. So it's not terrible. It's just a different thing. And again, with the settings chart, if you guys don't have it, look it up on the website. I'll also see if all in all, the MIG is not bad. Like I said, it's a little jumpy. I'm pretty sure it's just like it's got some kind of pulse built into it. Like I said, as time goes on, I'll play with it and let you guys know, because this is probably going to be coming back up. Some more videos and stuff down the line. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to hop over to we're hopping over to the fun bit. We're going to be doing stick welding, which is one of my favorite forms of welding. For this, we're going to do a couple different things. First, we're going to try some 70-18 1/8 inch. I'm going to do mostly 1/8 inch stuff here today, because if it can run the 1/8 inch, it's going to be able to run the 332. And then I have some big boy hard facing rods here. I believe they're the 5/32, so they're the next step up from the 1/8 inch rods we're going to be running here. This machine should not have enough oomph to be able to do it. I have a couple 60-10s as well. The 60-10 and the hard facing rods are kind of old, so we'll see what happens. But they're not like rusted up, and like the flux isn't messed up or anything, so they still should be okay. They've been in like a fairly sealed up tube for a hot minute now, so those will be the big tests if it's able to run a 60 series rod decently. Granted, it's going to be old, so it's going to be a little funky. The 70-18, any decent stick machine within this range should be able to run 1/8 inch 70-18, no problem. And now I don't question that it's going to be able to. My big thoughts is how smooth it's going to be and how nicely it's going to behave. Now, the Vulcan Omni Pro I have, it does MIG really well. It's smooth, has all types of settings it can do. So as a MIG, that's basic use as a MIG machine. And then whenever I really have to do a lot of heavy stick welding, I hop onto my Hobart. Now, the Hobart, it is an old transformer style machine. It goes up to, I think, was it 250 amps, I think it was. Don't quote me. I have videos on it back in the past too. But that thing is a beast. It has the smoothest arc that I run on most machines I've ever run. It's got some of the smoothest arc, easy to control the puddle. But the Vulcan is a little inverter machine, just like this one. But the problem is, once you start welding with stick, it's kind of got an erratic puddle, and if you're not used to welding, it's hard to explain what it is. But as you're going, it just kind of gets real shaky, or flutters and spits and sputters out. Yeah, it doesn't care to run. I mean, if you crank it really high and burn it, it runs pretty decently. Like I said, not the best, not the nicest thing I've had running some stick with, but it'll do. I mean, it's got me by this far, but whenever I really need some oomph and reliability, I hop back to the Hobart handler. But that thing weighs like 100 pounds or so. So plus having other equipment that I got to move around if I need something to take portably, it'd be nice to have that option. That way I don't need to drag a gas ball around with me like I do for the MiG. But, so, we're going to see if this runs, how it runs smoothly, if it can handle the hard-facing rods, which I'm excited to see how that will go. I got some 6013 that'll run. They're good, like, low-penetrating rods, and good all-around kind of like farm rods would be the best way I call them. If you got stuff that's rusty, junky, and kind of thin, that's what I'd run on it. Like I used to put back together a guy's farm truck bed a couple weeks ago. I used 6013 to help weld up that rusted thin sheet metal. I mean, in all honesty, you should get a new bed. The whole thing's got to help together. But there's not always that option, and so that's where people like me and others come in to help fix and at least band-aid it up until you can figure out something better. But anyway, we're going to run 7018, 6013, 6010, and some hard-facing rods. I do have some really old 6011, but I think there was a crack in the tube like this, so it wasn't sealed up. Moisture got inside, and they're kind of flaky. There's a couple that might be okay. We might try those, but I don't really think they're going to work very well. But the 6010 is going to be practically the same kind of thing as the 6011. So let's hop into it. We'll start off with the 7018 and go from there. Alrighty, so we're got to set up DC electrode positive 7018 rod, and we're going to be running at 115 amps, which should be plenty enough to start this rod decently. It has a smooth arc. I didn't even have to really fight to get it started. At first I did something stupid. I had my lens flipped up, didn't even think about it, started. And I was like, oh crap. So then I flipped it back down, started welding again, and it's got a nice smooth bead. Nice and wide. On 115, this runs really easy. I didn't even have to fight. Like I could just let the rod rest there and do its own thing here. It's great. So let me run a couple more here. I'll finish off this electrode. We'll get a better look at everything. I'll just leave it on the 115 for now. Maybe bump it up to 130 just to see how it acts. Because that's probably what I'll be running it on whenever I do overhead and stuff like that. So I want to see if it can handle that. So let's just have at it, buddy. Alrighty guys, so that was with the 7018. overall, I am really, really impressed with this. Like, it's made super smooth welds. It's a lot better than my Vulcan, at least whenever it comes to the stick. Anyways, so I don't know how well you guys can see. Down in here, all these welds in this kind of chunk there was what I just welded up. It's super smooth. Like, it doesn't fight you, it doesn't flutter. Now that even playing around, I'd let it have a little bit of a longer arc. It handled it all right. I tried to like smother it out. It handled it all right. So I'm pretty impressed with the stick capabilities on this machine. If this was just a standalone stick welder, it would definitely be worth the $300, like $400 for it. That it was on sale. So just on that alone, I'd recommend this machine. Now that's just a 7018. We're going to hop on to the 6010, or no, the 6013 first. We're going to run some of it, and then we're going to hop over to the 6010 rod after that, see how it handles one of those, and then we might do a little bit of a torture test with the hard facing and see if that'll kill it. Now mind you, it is a really hot day. It is pushing like 90 or so degrees out, maybe a little bit over. Plus all this stuff's been sitting out here in the sun for a few hours while I've been doing this. So this machine, she's cooking, and it's not throwing me no fits or nothing. It's not warning to shut down or throw any codes or anything. So that's good. Like I said, it's got the on-demand fan, which has kicked off a couple times already while we've been going. As soon as you start the arc again, it'll kick back on and it runs. But since it's been so hot, it stays on a little bit longer now. But once the machine cools down, it shuts right back off. So that's really cool. I like the on-demand fan now. The Vulcan has always running fans. It's very loud. So we're going to switch over to some 6013 and then go from there. I'll hop onto some 6013 rods. Here, now these ones are a little bit older, but those will still work just fine. This is the same batch I used just a week or so ago on that truck bed, and they seem to run all right. Now, especially since we're just going to be running on the thicker stuff, if it flutters a little bit, that's going to be okay. With that sheet metal and thin material, you want a lot of control, and these are a nice rod to have, especially because they don't really care what you run them on. You can run them on electrode positive, electrode negative on DC, or you can even run them on AC, which would be like if you guys got them little buzz boxes, them tombstones. This would be a good rod for you to have in your arsenal for thin materials and maybe some dirty materials. And if you get 7018s, and you have an AC machine, a regular 7018 will run on AC, but if you get the ones that have the flex blends specifically designed for AC, so the AC 7018s, those will run like butter for you on those. But you can get by with the regular 7018 as well. It just might pitch a fit here and there. So let's hop into the 6013 rods. We're going to dial her back a bit too. We're probably going to come back to let's see how she acts at 105. We might have to step her back still, because, like I said, these are closer to a 60 series rod. They're a smaller electrode, so they don't need as much heat. So 105 should be okay for now. We'll see how it goes and go from there. We'll just pick up right here under our 7018. excellent. Like I said, it wasn't fighting me at all. Yeah, ran real great. Now 6013, whenever it comes to rod technique, you can whip it, but you can just drag it like a 7018 just fine, and it doesn't affect it in the worst way yeah, in any way, shape, or form, really. Except for appearances, really. So, had a couple of issues right in here on the plate as we were welding. This thing is getting kind of hot now. We've been welding on it all day, and it's been sitting out in the sun for a hot minute. So, right in here was our 6013. Now, the exercise we're doing here to fill this up is called padding beads. It's a standard exercise to do when you're learning to weld. I do it in school with our students all the time. Have them sit down and just pad beads for days and days and days. That's how you get the idea how to run the rods right. Same thing with Mig and TIG. This is one of the best ways to do it. So, next up, we're going to hop over to 6010. Now, for our 6010, we're going to back her down a bit here. We don't want her... Well, that ain't... We'll come down to about 85 amps for our 6010. One quick gripe here about the machine. I wish the amperage knob was directly below where the amps are instead of the inductance or arc force knob there. It does not nothing. It's just you see it and your brain automatically goes to adjust that knob. But so far, I'm happy with it. So let's hop on to our 6010. 10 electrodes here. I said they're a bit older, so it might fight a little bit more than it already would. But that goes to say, if this machine can run it, an old rod, all right, they should be able to run a new rod really well. But a lot of these inverter style machines, especially the multi-process style ones, don't run 60 series rods very well. That'd be 6010, 6011. 6013 is a little bit different, but the 6010, 6011 are real good rods. They're for digging, running root welds, all types of stuff like that. So if it can run these cellulose rods really well, especially these older ones, I'll be really, really impressed with the stick capabilities on this machine. Now that being said, will it run it? I think how smooth the arc runs in this machine, I think it'll do fairly okay. I think it's going to fight, it's going to flutter, it's going to spit and sputter and want to go out. Yeah, the biggest thing, I don't think it's going to stay lit. But for the maybe 2 seconds that it will run, I'm sure it'll run pretty well. So, let me grab my hood, put all my gloves back on, and then we'll run one. Now, yeah, these rods are definitely old. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but the flux, once the heat starts getting into the rod, the flux just cracks apart and the rod starts becoming unstable. I mean, at first it didn't seem like it wanted to run, but then like I had to adjust the technique a little bit instead of just doing like your regular like forward, back, or up and around kind of whips. For your 6010, I did kind of more like a pecking. So it was more like, instead of me coming back and forth, back, like holding, back and forth, I would hold back, watch my puddle solidify, then drag forward and hit the material below me a little bit. Just kind of help keep the arc going. And like I said, I had more trouble from the rods being old than I did the actual machine's capabilities. So, I think if I got some newer 6010s, it could probably run it alright. Because the arc itself wasn't erratic. It would just go out. And it seemed like most of the time whenever it would go out is whenever the flux would start to crack. So I think it would run alright, and there was plenty of times whenever I was running with it. I had plenty of stretches, like that last weld, I did the whole thing in 2 or maybe 3 starts, so that's not terrible. Some of these machines won't even touch it. You'll go like 2 seconds in and it keeps going out, just out, out, out. So this one, I think you might be able to run some 60-10, 60-11 you could probably run decently on here. So, like I said, partially my fault with the old rods. I don't really have 60-10 right now that are new, so I'll have to pick up a box. But I think she'll handle the 60-10s okay if you get some new ones. And like I said, if you adapt how it runs, it should go well. So now let's go on to torture testing and see if it can even run these hard facing. Alrighty guys, quick change of thought. Before we do a torture test, in case it does end up somehow killing this thing, I did find some old flux core wire. It's not rusty at all, so she should be fine. It's gasless. I would like to find a way to get some dual shield in some smaller spools than the 45-pound spools. That way I could run some dual shield, because I like doing that a lot too. So if anybody has any ideas where to get some for not crazy amounts of money, let me know. So I'm going to set this up for flux core, and we'll play with that a little bit before we hop back to the stick. Alrighty, well, I got everything switched over to the flux core wire. So now we're just going to feed her through again. Remember, we took the contact tip out. Alrighty, now we'll feed this baby back on there. Now, I don't have one of them little flux cover caps to protect the gas diffuser. The ones at Harbor Freight, since the consumables with the Vulcan are compatible, you can go there and buy one of them flux tips for it. It's just a little cone to put on to keep the spatter off. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and use the nozzle. So we're going to go ahead and start welding. Alrighty guys, so we're going to do the flux core builds now. I have the machine set at about 23 volts and 14 amps. I have not ran it yet, so let's see how this goes.
Perfect.
Alright, well, I got a bird's nest. I started dialing it in. It seems like it was running okay for the most part. I have some spots where I got a fair bit of porosity coming through them on some of these, and a couple of them look alright. I didn't hit them with the wire wheel yet, but I think for what it is, it'll work okay on flux core too. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of self-shielded flux core. I prefer to do dual shield if I'm going to go that route, or stick. So this is the same roll of flux core that I got whenever it came with my Vulcan Omni Pro, and that was back in I think 2017, something like that. So it's kind of old wire, but like I said, it'll run it okay. It's not my thing. You got to remember to keep it on negative polarity, so it's the opposite of what you do for a regular MIG. So you just take your little selector here, flip-flop them. And that's it. Like I said, will I be running flux core out of this regularly? I doubt it. Whenever it comes to these self-shielded wires, a lot of times brand is a big deal. You have to have a good main brand wire. I haven't tried the Hobart one yet. I know all the Harbor Freight brands are pretty garbage. I tried a few Tractor Supply brands like the Job Smarts, and the budget ones don't seem to really run well. The Lincoln wire seems alright. The small Lincoln wire anyway. So we'll switch this back over to stick and finish out with our torture test. Alrighty, so we switched back over to our stick mode here. So now we're gonna hop on to doing. Oh crap. We're hopping back on the stick here. We're going to be running pretty hot here. We're maxing it out. We're going to max it out. We're going to run them 532 hard facing rods, the good and bad ones, and just go till this machine shuts out, or I think it's proven its worth here. So that's the next. Alrighty, here we go. Alrighty guys, so torture test, it went way better than expected here. It ran these hard facing rods. It struggled a bit to begin with, but once it got the groove, it was just kind of going. I gotta stop because the machine's doing fine. Nothing's going bad, but my lead here is starting to smoke. I can't even touch it right now, the cord. I can touch the stinger okay for a little bit without gloves, but down here, even through the gloves, it's burning hot. It's very supple, and again, the machine's fine. The cords are undersized for this, and they were smoking pretty good just a second ago. I had to stop, so we're gonna call that good. She did great. She didn't shut down. Nothing overheat. And like I said, this rod wasn't even supposed to be ran on this machine. It's asking way too much of it, but it handled it. I have some decent welds in here for the hard face. Like these hard surfacing rods aren't so much for beauty. Hard surfacing is just a wear surface, so it's just there to throw in the material. So it did well. Like I said, the Mig. Looking back after I swapped out the rolls, I did notice a little bit of back and forth play with the spool mount, but I tightened up that spot after I put it back in, and it fixed up that pulsing issue. So it runs real smooth on the Mig. Stick, couldn't ask for anything better. The flux core works fine. Like I said, I don't use it that much, so that's probably the only time I'm going to run it on this thing. So guys, let me know what you thought of this. This was, again, the Arccaptain Mig 200. They did not pay me. This is not sponsored. I bought this welder with my own money. If they would like to reach out and have me test more of their products, if more of them are like this, I'd gladly test them all. So, let me know what you guys thought. I strongly recommend this welder. It's very lightweight. Everything packs up nicely. Dual voltage. Like I said, my gripes would be a better solid way to do the spool mounting. That way it's kind of a little bit tricky getting it to keep the spool level with the 10-pound spool. So maybe a little bit better of an insert on that. Definitely some heavier leads, which I'm definitely going to put on this thing because I kind of killed this one a little bit. She's kind of melting. Yeah, I can basically squish it and feel my fingers between it. So, but the machine itself held up. The leads did not. That'll happen even if you have bigger leads once they get older. So much current runs through them, they just kind of die on you. But the MIG's really good. I'm happy with that. Now that I got that pulsing issue sorted out. The stick works amazingly. The flux core is alright. Like I said, I don't run it, so I'm not really the best to give you much insight on that. And I have old Harbor Freight wire, so I mean, take that what you will. It ran it. It looked okay. There were spots that had porosity. That's probably my fault. I'm not used to running the flux core self-shield like that. But all in all, for the price, I'd say this is a great little machine. Like I said, they have a warranty, so whenever you first get the thing, give it a torture test. If she don't die, then you're good. Just hold on to that card. Yeah. Alright guys, catch you on the next one. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. And I'd like to give a shout out to MBS Welding. He also did a very in-depth review on this, which is kind of what sold me on getting this machine. Was watching his. I'll have a link in the description. And yeah, you guys should really check him out. He does a lot of interesting things. He built some bridges and stuff recently. So check out MBS Welding. And hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments. Talk to you later. Forge your fate.